Helen reclined in the hallway, her eyes aglow as they fixated on the concert tickets clutched tightly in her grasp. Just as Christina emerged from the office, Helen burst out, "Christina, guess what? We're finally going to see them perform live." Christina paused at the entrance, her face shaded with concern. "Helen, I have some bad news. I can't go," Christina confessed, dodging Helen's questioning gaze. "I have something important to do." A mischievous suspicion flickered in Helen. "Oh, is it a mysterious date you haven't mentioned?" Christina chuckled softly. "No, it's not a date," she said, growing more serious. Helen persisted. "So, what's the reason?" "We've been looking forward to this." Christina shifted uncomfortably. "Please, let's just leave it at that." However, Helen's curiosity was insatiable. When Christina stepped away to get some water, Helen noticed a medical prescription on the coffee table. Unable to resist, she glanced over the paper. "Mrs. Emily Foster," she whispered. Emily was Christina's ex-husband's mother. Upon Christina's return, Helen questioned her. "Why are you still helping your ex-husband's mother, Christina? You've been divorced for a long time. Why keep her in your life?" Christina remained silent for a moment. With a gentle smile, she replied, "Emily's always been good to me. Right now, she needs someone, and that someone is me." Helen sighed. "I just think you deserve better. You're so caring, and you're still alone. You deserve happiness." Christina softly replied, "Caring for Emily brings me a different kind of happiness, Helen." Helen and Christina's friendship seemed genuine on the surface, but it concealed a shadow of true companionship. Hidden beneath their interactions was a bond built on manipulation and selfish intentions. Christina, ever trusting, often overlooked Helen's actions, hoping for the best. However, deep inside, she sensed the uneven nature of their relationship. Whenever they ventured out together, Helen ensured she stood out. From her carefully selected outfits to her attention-grabbing comments and preferred places. It all seemed designed to outshine Christina and keep her in the background. The concert ticket incident was a prime example. Helen bragged about securing tickets to the hottest concert in town without considering Christina's musical preferences. Moreover, during social outings, Helen would make unsolicited comments about Christina's single status, introducing her to any single man present with a voice dripping with pity. As if Christina was a project needing intervention, Christina could see through it. Helen's attempts to play matchmaker were not out of concern for her, but rather to spotlight herself and lure more attention. Christina often felt like a mere accessory in Helen's social game. Christina, a gentle soul, found it hard to decline any invitation, even if it wasn't to her liking. She usually accompanied her friends on their escapades, not wanting to upset anyone. However, today was different. There was another commitment she couldn't ignore. As they approached the bridge, the point where their paths would diverge, Christina could sense Helen's concern. Gathering her thoughts, Christina paused and said, "Helen, I truly appreciate your concern for me. I believe that someday I'll find the right person. Please go on and enjoy yourself. I need to head in a different direction today." Christina inhaled deeply, the crisp cold air filling her lungs. Her thoughts quickly turned to Emily, her mother-in-law. On a normal day, Emily would have started the furnace by now. If she was having one of her painful episodes of migraines and high blood pressure, she'd be confined to her bed. This meant the house would be even colder, especially with the sharp winter chill outside. With a growing sense of urgency, Christina quickened her pace towards the bus stop. Their home was humble, a small house they acquired after her ex-husband lost their previous apartment due to his careless decisions. Glancing at her watch, she calculated that she had about 20 minutes before the bus would arrive. With the week's earnings clasped in her hand, she decided to drop by the pharmacy for some much-needed medication. "Christina, dear, how are things with you and Emily?" Margaret, the kind-hearted pharmacist who had been Emily's neighbor for years, greeted her warmly. "Hi, Margaret. Everything's much the same, no big changes," Christina replied with a small smile. "Dear Christina, Emily is truly fortunate to have you. Despite all that's happened, you've stayed by her side," Margaret remarked with a hint of admiration in her eyes. Christina responded softly, "Emily is like family to me." Margaret shook her hand with a mixture of disbelief and pity. "I'll never understand how a woman as good-hearted as Emily could have raised such a son." Collecting the medications and expressing her gratitude, Christina left the pharmacy, her heart heavy with the weight of her thoughts. She had always been a firm believer in serendipity. The day she bumped into Stephen at a local coffee shop, their eyes locked, and it felt as though the universe had conspired for that very moment. The connection was palpable. It wasn't long before they began dating. And as the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Christina found herself falling deeply in love with him. 6 whirlwind months later, as they watched the sunset from their favorite spot at the beach, Stephen, with a nervous smile and eyes filled with hope, proposed marriage. Christina, her heart racing, agreed instantly. However, she couldn't help but point out that she hadn't even met his parents yet. Understanding her concerns, Stephen took her to his mother's house the following weekend. Emily, Stephen's mother, greeted them with a warm smile and open arms. It was a surprise to Christina how quickly she bonded with her. They would chat for hours, share stories, and by the end of the day, it felt as though they had known each other for years. Emily held a special fondness for Christina, evident in the approving gaze she cast upon her, her eyes sparkling with warmth. A few weeks later, Christina received an unexpected call from Emily. The tone in Emily's voice was both eager and nervous as she invited Christina to visit her. Sensing something amiss when she arrived, Christina sat down over a pot of tea. Emily took a deep breath and shared a shocking revelation. Stephen had been married twice before. Christina listened intently, her mind swirling with a whirlwind of emotions. What stood out, however, was a concern in Emily's voice. "He's my son, and I love him," Emily began, "but I don't want to see your heart get broken." Christina was surprised and puzzled. It wasn't every day that a mother revealed such a personal detail about her son. Still, she thanked Emily for her candor, although taken aback. Their conversation concluded with an embrace, but as Christina stepped out, her mind was clouded with mixed emotions. In the subsequent days, introspection filled Christina's thoughts. She decided against confronting Stephen, holding on to the belief that everyone deserved redemption and past actions should remain in the past. After all, Stephen's daily gestures painted a picture of a man who was devoted, considerate, and genuinely loved her. Time flew, and soon they were exchanging vows with loved ones around them, including a teary-eyed Emily, as they embarked on their marital journey. Christina occasionally reflected on her heart-to-heart with Emily. It served as a reminder of the value of trust, open dialogue, and the realization that everyone carries a past. Christina often thought back to that pivotal moment. Their quaint home stood as a reminder of what once was. Stephen, with his lofty ambitions, had convinced her to sell their apartment and invest the money in a seemingly promising business idea. Worse yet, he had persuaded his unsuspecting mother, Emily, to do the same. As the days unfolded, Stephen came clean about the grim reality. Not only had he lost every penny from their apartment sales, but he had also dug them deep into debt. Both Emily and Christina felt the weight of the betrayal, overwhelmed not just with shattered trust, but also relentless and intimidating phone calls from debtors. In her heart, Christina wanted to believe they were just facing the growing pains any young family might experience. She clung to the hope that they'd find a way out, and things would eventually get better. Yet, a more ominous cloud loomed, adding another layer of worry to an already strained household. Within the first year of their marriage, the pressure of not conceiving started to create cracks in their bond. Christina and Stephen had envisioned a life where they'd raise children together. Christina tried to stay positive and understanding, but Stephen's patience wore thin. His reluctance to consult a doctor was driven by a mix of fear and old-fashioned notions equating manhood with the ability to father children. One chilly evening, following yet another quiet meal, Stephen's bottled-up emotions erupted. "Perhaps you're the reason we can't start a family," he spat out. Christina was stunned and hurt by the baseless allegation, especially since they hadn't even taken a step towards seeking medical advice. The once harmonious atmosphere of their home was now punctuated by regular disputes. The warmth and intimacy that once characterized their relationship had evaporated, replaced by a cold detachment. The final straw came when Stephen, in a desperate move, revealed he was seeing another woman, hoping she would provide him with the family he yearned for. Christina's world fell apart. The love and trust she had placed in Stephen felt like a distant memory. Raised with traditional values, she had always believed in the enduring bond of marriage and the promise of forever. Stephen wasn't just her husband. He was her first and only love. Emily was beside herself with anger when she learned the truth. "How can you walk away from someone so genuine?" she demanded of Stephen. Over the years, Emily had come to see Christina as the daughter she never had. Her son's actions felt like a betrayal not just to Christina, but to her as well. Yet Stephen, blinded by his desires, just turned his back and left. He eventually married his new flame, and as days flowed into weeks and weeks into months, his new wife never made an effort to visit or connect with Emily. This sense of being abandoned by her son and ignored by his new wife left Emily grappling with immense loneliness and sorrow. Christina could see the pain and nostalgia in Emily's eyes. After a pause, Emily gestured for Christina to sit beside her and began to share a tale from her past. "Christina, when I was about your age, I was engaged to a kind man named Howard. I thought of him as the love of my life. I also had a close friend named Lucy, or so I believed. As the wedding preparations were in full swing, I learned that Howard had fallen for Lucy. To make matters worse, Lucy became pregnant with his child. The betrayal was overwhelming. The man I loved and my supposed best friend had turned my world upside down. Heartbroken, I watched as they moved away to start a new life together. However, a couple of years later, an unexpected call from Lucy left me in a state of distress. Lucy, who was Howard's ex-wife, confessed that Howard had left her. Struggling to find love again as a single mother, Lucy often turned to drink to drown her loneliness and regrets. While I pitied her situation, it was the thought of their young son that truly weighed on my heart. Lucy's health deteriorated rapidly, and realizing she had limited time, she asked me to care for her son Stephen. The bond I developed with him was instant, even though he served as a constant reminder of my past heartache. I couldn't abandon him, especially after Lucy's passing. Her dying wish was for me to always be there for Stephen, and I willingly accepted, having grown genuinely fond of the boy. Christina listened, tears welling in her eyes, realizing the depth of Emily's compassion and the intricate ties that bound their shared history. "Christina, why are you so kind?" Emily asked, taken aback. "Oh, Emily," Christina whispered, understanding the parallels in their stories. Both had experienced heartbreaking betrayals from those they believed loved them the most. It was as if history had repeated itself, and they were bound together by shared pain. Christina was heartbroken, seeing how Stephen's neglect affected Emily, making her fall ill frequently. Eventually, Emily had a stroke. Many friends suggested that Christina move Emily to a specialized care center, arguing that Emily's condition might be beyond her capabilities. And after all, Emily wasn't truly her family. However, Emily and Christina saw each other differently. Christina saw them as family, and she was determined to care for Emily. Christina held onto the belief that with enough love and care, Emily would regain her strength and walk again, despite the doctor's doubts. Emily's determination never wavered. Christina gently inquired, "Did you ever think of searching for Howard?" Emily took a moment, then sighed. "I loved Howard deeply, but I never searched for him. I thought, why should I? He probably had a family of his own by then." As Christina stepped off the bus and started her walk home, the sight of smoke billowing from her chimney brought a momentary sense of relief. It meant Emily had managed to light the stove. However, that relief was short-lived. An ambulance stood outside their house, frosted over, indicating it had been there for some time. Panic rolled up inside Christina as she quickened her steps, her mind filled with anxious thoughts. Rushing inside with her heart in her throat, she learned that Emily had suffered another stroke. When Emily finally regained consciousness, She felt a dull ache on her left side. Trying to speak, her words didn't come out clearly. Christina, with deep blue eyes full of warmth, reassured her. "Don't worry, Emily. You had another stroke, but you were strong enough to call for help. I'm here with you." Despite advice from her colleagues and friends, Christina left her job. Many couldn't understand why she would choose to care for the mother of a man who had once hurt her deeply. But for Christina, it wasn't just about that. She often thought about how she would feel if she were in Emily's position, facing loneliness and health challenges. She knew that if their roles were reversed, she would hope for someone to stand by her side, just as she was doing for Emily now. Christina's empathy and understanding went beyond past grievances. She wanted to be there for Emily, no matter what others thought. Over time, Emily began to regain her strength, and Christina became her rock during those challenging weeks. She cheered Emily on during her speech therapy sessions, held her hand as she took her first shaky steps, and laughed joyfully as they twirled around the living room in a makeshift dance. Upon returning to her job, Christina discovered a new management team in place, with Eddie as the new owner of the company. Eddie admired Christina's dedication to an elderly lady, not realizing the depth of their connection. Christina's commitment inspired him, and he found her intriguing. Helen, in contrast, was the buzzing bee of the office, known for her sociable tendencies and vibrant nature. One busy day, a critical project landed on their desk, and Eddie, as a team leader, delegated tasks. He handed the most demanding parts to Christina, trusting her proven track record. While Helen received a smaller yet important portion, Christina steadily worked through her tasks, occasionally checked in by Eddie, always met with a nod of assurance. In contrast, Helen found herself struggling, and her frequent coffee breaks and chats began to hamper her pace. As the deadline loomed closer, the office atmosphere grew tense. Eddie found a distraught Helen in the kitchen, and she admitted, "I've fallen behind." Eddie, concerned, approached her, asking, "Everything all right, Helen?" "I believe I could handle it," Eddie assured her, attempting to comfort Helen. "Don't worry, we'll work something out." At that moment, Christina entered the kitchen for a quick coffee refill. Observing Helen's distress, she offered, "I can chip in after I'm done with my part." This surprised both Helen and Eddie. When Christina handed in her portion of the project, Eddie was left amazed. Not only had she meticulously completed her assigned tasks, but she had also gone the extra mile, adding thoughtful recommendations that no one had even considered. On a particularly stressful day, Christina found a surprise at her desk, a vibrant bouquet of flowers. She paused, half expecting someone to realize they had mistakenly placed the flowers on her desk. Although the colorful blooms brightened her space, Christina couldn't help but wonder who had thought of her in such a kind way. Helen, always in the loop with office gossip, found herself taken aback by the unexpected turn of events. While she usually enjoyed being the go-to for office news, it was strange to see someone as reserved as Christina become the talk of the town. Christina, in the midst of solving the bouquet puzzle, discovered a dainty card nestled amidst the petals. It carried a sweet message in neat handwriting. "For the light you bring, even when you're not aware." However, there was no name or hint of the sender. Seen from the procurement department couldn't help but drop by, grinning cheekily. "Looks like someone's smitten with you," he remarked, giving her a playful wink. Flustered, Christina replied, "I really can't figure out who sent them." Throughout the morning, Christina's desk became a hot topic. Speculations ran wild, jokes were cracked, and everyone seemed to have a theory about the mystery sender. Helen, trying to reclaim her role as the office storyteller, teased, "I bet it's from that handsome new guy in finance," gesturing towards a young man in a wheelchair. Soon, others joined in with their own humorous takes on Christina's secret admirer. By noon, the attention became too much for Christina. Though she loved the flowers, the constant buzz around them turned her quiet day topsy-turvy. Needing a breather, she decided to slip away for a quiet lunch outside. A few days later, Christina was engrossed in her work when a courier suddenly appeared at her desk, holding an extravagant basket of flowers. Christina, surprised, nodded as the courier handed her a slip to sign. Helen couldn't resist approaching to inspect the bouquet, a glint of envy in her eyes. Another surprise awaited Christina. Helen, always quick with remarks, asked, "What's the story this time?" Despite being younger and, in her own opinion, more attractive, Helen couldn't fathom why Christina was receiving such attention. Christina, slightly embarrassed, responded, "I honestly don't know. It could be a mix-up." Helen, not one to back down, insinuated, "I've never heard about any romantic interests in your life. Did you order these for yourself, maybe to pretend someone's interested?" Choosing not to engage with Helen's comments, Christina returned to her work, leaving the flowers as an unsolved mystery. Every day, like clockwork, a fresh bouquet appeared at Christina's desk. The office buzzed with whispers and chuckles, and Helen's attempts to tease Christina continued. Despite the office gossip, Christina remained silent about the mystery sender. The relentless flower deliveries were starting to affect her concentration at work, not because of the flowers themselves, but due to the incessant chatter around them. Christina needed to discover who was behind this and why, as the mystery had become an unwelcome distraction. Christina was about to head out for lunch when a man held the main door open for her. Surprised, she stopped, realizing he was wearing a chauffeur's cap and uniform. Before she could say anything, he escorted her to a sleek sit-in parked in front of the office building and opened the passenger door for her. Feeling like she was in a daze, Christina wondered if this was even real. She pinched herself to make sure she wasn't dreaming. Finally, she spoke up, unable to contain her curiosity any longer. "Excuse me, sir, but what's going on? What does all this mean? Who's behind all this?" Her voice was tinged with bewilderment. The driver looked puzzled at first, but then broke into a warm smile. "You'll find out soon enough, madame. Please have a seat in the car." The whole situation felt like something out of a movie, and Christina was both anxious and excited to see what would happen next. The car smoothly made its way to one of the city's most elegant restaurants. The grand entrance was lit with soft lights, and as Christina stepped inside, the gentle hum of conversation greeted her. A smiling waiter instantly recognized her and motioned her to follow him as they weaved through tables. Christina spotted someone seated at a secluded spot in the back. His back was turned to her, making it impossible to recognize him immediately. With every step, her heartbeat quickened. Who could it be? Why were they meeting in such a secretive manner? Finally, she stood in front of the table, and before she could ask anything, the man turned around and greeted her. "Hello, Christina. Please join me." To her astonishment, it was Eddie, the new owner of the company. The soft glow of the table's candlelight highlighted his features, and he wore a gentle smile. Christina was filled with a mix of surprise, curiosity, and a dash of nervousness. When Eddie first learned of Christina's heartwarming actions towards her former mother-in-law, he found it hard to believe such acts of kindness were rare. Genuinely astonished, he decided to verify the story for himself by visiting Emily while Christina was away at work. Introducing himself as a colleague from her office, checking in to see if Christina's extended leave was for a genuine reason, Eddie realized that all he'd heard about Christina's dedication and kindness was true. Beyond his professional curiosity, Eddie had a personal reason for wanting to learn more about Christina. For years, he had remained single, and his mother often urged him to find someone special and settle down. Eddie would lament how many people seemed to prioritize material wealth over genuine feelings and connections. For him, it wasn't about physical appearance. He was drawn to a person's inner character and values. Knowing Christina's selfless actions towards Emily deepened his intrigue and respect for her. During their lunch, Christina chuckled, and Eddie looked slightly embarrassed. "I apologize if it was overwhelming. I just thought you deserve something beautiful every day." He hesitated before adding, "Honestly, I didn't know how to approach you directly. I've never really tried to win someone over before, so I guess I went a bit overboard with the flowers as a way to show my interest," Eddie admitted. Christina shook her head in amusement. "Well, thanks to your little gesture, there's a running joke in the office that I've been sending them to myself. Eddie laughed heartily, his eyes crinkling at the corners. I guess we've given them quite the story, haven't we? During their lunch, Christina felt the need to be open about her past. Taking a deep breath, she said, "Before things progress further, there's something I need to share with you. I was married once before." Eddie looked at her with understanding eyes and a gentle smile. "I already know about it," he replied softly. "Your past is a part of you, but it doesn't define the present. We all have stories." This made her feel even more at ease, realizing that Eddie valued who she was now rather than dwelling on what once was. Eddie and Christina began spending more time together. It wasn't formal dating, but more of a slow exploration. Having navigated the rocky terrain of a failed marriage before, Christina was wary of diving in too quickly. They decided to keep their budding relationship under wraps for the time being. With Emily recovering well, Christina felt like she was living in a dream. Everything seemed to be falling into place. However, when Eddie mentioned promoting her, she immediately declined. She didn't want to be under the office microscope or the subject of speculation. "If you need assistance, I'm here to help, but please, let's keep it discreet," she told him. This response only deepened Eddie's admiration for her. He felt he had indeed found someone genuine to stand by his side. However, secrets have a way of unraveling. One day, a colleague spotted Eddie and Christina in an intimate moment outside of work. The rumor mill went into overdrive, and whispers of their relationship began circulating the office. When Helen caught wind of the gossip, she was livid. She cornered Christina, bombarding her with a barrage of questions. Christina, maintaining her composure, said nothing. This silence confirmed Helen's suspicions. Envy consumed her, and she hatched a plan to tarnish Christina's image. She started spreading fabricated tales of Christina's past, alleging that Christina's ex-husband had left her due to financial recklessness on her part. Helen's jealousy was no secret. She had tried multiple times to ensnare Eddie with her charms, but he remained impervious. Eddie would laugh off Helen's flirty remarks and dinner invites, always citing his busy schedule as a reason. One day, Helen stormed into Eddie's office, her face flushed with anger. "I can't believe you're seriously considering a relationship with Christina. Do you even know her past?" She stormed out, leaving Eddie calm. Armed with the truth that he had painstakingly gathered, he confronted Helen. "I'm aware that Christina was married," he replied, standing up and walking toward the window. "I also know why her husband left her. He left her for another woman." Eddie paused, his eyes locking onto Helen's as he turned back around. "And that woman, Helen, was you?" Helen was dumbfounded, her face a mix of shock and disbelief. She never thought her secret would be uncovered. But she had underestimated Eddie. Eddie was no novice when it came to due diligence. After speaking with Emily, he tracked down Christina's ex-husband, Stephen, and offered him a sum of money for the truth. The promise of quick cash loosened Stephen's lips, revealing the real story. The room went silent, the air heavy with the weight of the revealed secret. Helen's schemes had caught up to her, unraveling in the moment of stark revelation. Helen, once the chatterbox of the office, had retreated into the shadows. Christina always wanted to think the best of people, was concerned for her once close friend when Helen suddenly stopped coming to work. Christina felt a pang of sadness. But when she asked Eddie about Helen's abrupt departure, he shared that she had decided to move and begin anew. Amidst all of this, Christina had a significant event coming up, meeting Eddie's mother, Grace. It was an important milestone for any couple. Since Christina's parents were no longer around, she brought Emily, her former mother-in-law, with her to dinner. Grace was elegant, her years of meticulous work as an accountant giving her a sharp, attentive gaze. From the moment Christina introduced Emily, the two clicked. Both had experienced so much in life, and as the evening progressed, they exchanged stories, laughed together, and found comfort in each other's company. It was clear to Eddie and Christina that a beautiful friendship was blossoming between Emily and Grace. As Christina became more involved in Eddie's business ventures, their professional collaboration turned heads in the office. Whispers turned into open discussions, and before long, everyone knew about their romance. The two had become the most talked about couple at the company. But this time for all the right reasons. At the office parking lot, a familiar car caught Christina's eye. The office was almost deserted, with everyone heading off to celebrate New Year's Eve with their families. As Christina was about to head home after wrapping up her final report, Eddie stepped out from behind the parked car, holding a huge bouquet of pristine white roses. "Come on, it's New Year's Eve. Work can wait," Eddie playfully chastised her, laughing. Christina replied, "I'm sorry, love. Just had that one last report to wrap up." That night, in the warmth of Eddie's home, they enjoyed an intimate dinner. During a quiet moment, Emily arose from her seat, her eyes shimmering with tears. She gazed deeply at Christina, emotion evident in her voice. "I might have lost Stephen, but in his place, I gained a precious daughter and a wonderful son." Fast forward 2 months, Eddie and Christina were happily married. In another 4 months, Christina decided to resign from her job. At Eddie's gentle insistence, the couple had even more joyous news. They were expecting a baby. Christina's story was a testament to the power of resilience and kindness. Despite life's challenges, she held onto the values her parents had taught her, to always lend a helping hand and to be kind. As they said, kindness would always come back to you, sometimes even tenfold.